Hi everyone, it's me, Lindsay with EquipMeOT, here today to talk about upright rolling walkers. And I wanted to do kind of a side-by-side comparison between a standard rollator walker and these kind of newer to the scene but really neat options which are called upright walkers. Specifically, I have here the OasisSpace lightweight foldable upright walker. This is one of the more popular models. It's relatively affordable, under $200. And then I have here the Drive Medical standard four-wheel rollator walker, and this one's going to run you around $60. So as far as price points are concerned, these are about twice the price, but they do give you some different features that can be really important for some users. So I want to make sure and address all of that. So I'm going to start right off with some specs, some of the important measurements and weights. Both of these are going to be graded for 300 pounds worth of user weight. They're going to both weigh in a similar range. There's a 5-pound weight difference between the two. This one weighs 23 pounds and this one weighs about 18 pounds. So that 5 pounds can make a big difference depending on who it is that's going to be transporting these walkers, if they're going to go from home to community and back again. So that might be an important consideration for you. As you can see, they both have relatively similar braking systems. They both rely on these cable brakes. They're going to work very similarly. They're just positioned differently on the walker. So they're going to, if you squeeze the brake like this, it's going to stop or compress the brake and stop the walker temporarily while it is compressed or squeezed. Or you can press the brakes down on a standard out for the upright, and that's going to lock the brakes statically so that you don't have to keep squeezing it. They are adjustable brakes, and I do have a video I'm going to link up here for how you can adjust your walker brakes if you find that they're too tight or too loose. So check that out if you have questions about that process. Both of these walkers come with a very nice seat option. Let me turn it around here so you can see how it looks. This one, as you can see, it's got this nice backrest, which this one does not have. So both seats are going to be fairly comfortable. This one's padded, this one is not. This one's more of a square shape. This one's got more width to it. You can see we have a slightly padded but pretty minimal backrest available on this rollator, where we have a significantly more supportive backrest on this style. It also sits higher up, so for more people, they tend to find this a little bit more comfortable. So let's go ahead and measure the width of these seats for you. This one's going to give you about 12 inches by 12 inches of square area. There's a little more width there as far as how much width you can expect for a person, so that's fairly narrow. Whereas this walker is going to give you 17.5 inches of width, which is significantly more, and about 10 inches of depth on the seat, but it's going to go all the way back to about 13 inches before you hit the backrest. So a little bit more size for this. I do find for the most part these are really popular amongst my slightly larger individuals, especially men. They tend to like the stability of it, and just the general size of it is much more substantial, whereas this is going to definitely feel smaller for most. So let's talk about these armrests. The armrests are obviously the biggest difference between these two types of walkers. You can see the position of them is quite different, as well as just the general functionality of them. These handrests are going to be just supported by the hand and wrist. So let's turn around so you can see how I would hold on to this. You're just going to put your hands and wrists on here, and it's going to rest at this height. The movement is very minimal at the hands for managing the brakes, which I do like with this design. You know, you don't have to go very far to manage the hands and brakes. But again, all of the weight is going to be placed at the hand and wrist level. Whereas with this one, you're going to rest your forearms on the walker, and it's going to be meant to place all of the weight through the forearms in kind of the elbow area. So that looks very different from a functional standpoint, and it can be excellent for individuals who struggle with hand and wrist weakness, pain, arthritis, things like that, carpal tunnel even. So this one you're going to use, you can have the hands here. This is adjustable. The distance between the forearm support has a lot of give. So depending on how long the arms are of the user, this is fully adjustable. You can also adjust whether it's angled in, out. So if you have some functional differences with the hand and wrist positioning, you can really customize it to your specific functional needs. So I kind of had mine set equal distance here and here. The one difference, and the thing that I didn't love about it, was that when you're managing the brakes, you kind of have to release, and you really do have to push out, and that outward push is a little bit different than the downward push that you use with the standard walker. So just a little bit different strength needs depending on the user. So again, I'm going to be standing more upright because my arms are being supported at the elbow forearm region instead of at the hand and wrist. Okay. Let's talk posture. This is a huge bonus to using an upright walker versus a standard rollator. When you use a rollator walker, you're positioned behind the base of support. The wheel base and everything is all going to be in front of you, and the tendency is to push the walker out front, creating a little bit of a hunching or kyphotic bent over position. That's just kind of going to happen with this type of walker over time. Again, putting that base of support out front. And this can have long-term implications on your posture as well as on your center of gravity. Over time, it all gets shifted forward when you rely on this type of walker heavily for your mobility needs. Versus using an upright walker, you're going to find that your base of support stays directly over your center because the place where you're putting your pressure, which is through those elbows and the shoulders, stay close to the body here. So you can see I'm not pushing this walker forward, I'm walking within the base of the walker. One thing you can see, and I don't know if the camera picks it up, but this wheelbase is much longer. You've got much greater depth here. So those rear wheels are actually going to be aligned with or even slightly behind my feet while I walk. That's what's going to help give you that very upright posture. Versus this design where all four wheels are in front of you. So that's a really important distinction between the two, and one that gives a lot of therapists some hope to help people stay more upright with their posture, even when relying on a walker design like this. Okay. One more thing I want to point out is wheel size. This upright walker has huge wheels. We've got 10-inch wheels on this one, and then this one's going to range anywhere from 5 to 8 inch. These walker wheels are definitely both a benefit and a hindrance depending on what you're using it for. These bigger wheels are fantastic when you're dealing with lots of different surface textures, if you're using it outside on sidewalks where there may be some gaps and cracks, or in a home that has a lot of threshold changes, like transitioning from carpet to hard floors to tile, if you have a lot of grout lines, things like that. These bigger wheels can really accommodate that type of change, whereas these smaller wheels do tend to get caught up on that different types of flooring a little bit more often. One downside to the larger wheel is the turning radius. Not only does this have bigger wheels, but again, it has that greater depth and that greater wheelbase. This guy does not do great in tight spaces. So if your home has narrow corridors, narrower doors, perhaps you are hoping to use this in a bathroom that may be long and skinny, turning around with this is going to be very difficult or darn near impossible. Whereas this one has a very tight turning radius. You can see I can turn this really, really tight. There's a little bit of drag, but not too bad. Whereas this guy, I have a much wider turning that I have to accommodate. So just something to consider based on where you're using it. I love this for community navigation because typically you're not going to run into just about those really, really narrow spaces. Let's talk a little bit about who would benefit from using an upright walker. I really like upright walkers for individuals who have a more significant balance or weakness issue with their lower body. These type of walkers are really only a minimal amount of physical support. They help with the balance, but they're not going to give you all the balance support that this one will. So if you're somebody, for example, with Parkinson's disease, or maybe muscular sclerosis, or even some early ALS, something like this is going to provide you significantly more support and allow you to ambulate with greater safety and security. Again, because you're putting that weight through larger muscle groups and able to bear it through your arms so you can take some weight off your legs. One area we use these a lot with were early on in the recovery processes for traumatic brain injuries, strokes, anything that caused significant neurological deficits. These type of walkers were more useful for those individuals. Now, I will say this, at this point, it is very important that if you're considering transitioning to an upright walker from a rollator walker or reverse, it is always important that you consult with your medical professional in order to make sure that that transition is done safely and that you're being adjusted size-wise for the actual walker you're using. So make sure you address this with your medical professional before going out and making these purchases on your own. One extra feature I will mention, because this is a very popular thing with rollator walkers, is of course the popular basket under the seat. So these walkers traditionally come with some sort of basket under the seat, or you can purchase it as an add-on. This one does not have a basket under the seat, but it does come with this removable and pretty nice bag. It doesn't come off super easy, which may be a bit of a problem for some, but there we go. So this bag comes with the walker, has a zipper, has a deep pouch, works really well if you need that extra transportability, and you can also still set things on this seat. Even though it's a softer seat, it will still hold things pretty well. Okay, last but not least, how do they fold up? How does it work as far as transporting these walkers? So, standard rollator walker, fairly simple with its fold-up option. You're going to usually lift up the seat, and then you're going to lift this little bar here. Sometimes we fold that back, and it just kind of goes flat, okay? So, as far as how much size it loses by going flat, it's not a ton. It's still fairly large, and unfortunately, it can be a little cumbersome to move around depending on who is doing the moving of it. So, and then you just unfold it by pushing it flat, and off you go. So that's the rollator walker, pretty simple. This one also folds up, and I'll show you. This seat has a handle on it, like this. I'm going to lift that. That releases the seat. It's going to fold itself flat. And as you can see, it goes pretty flat. This one has one additional feature down at these rear legs. Again, because look at how long these rear legs are. I'm actually going to set this all the way down on the ground here because I think it's a little safer way to do this. Just like that. And then we're going to pull up on this little lever and it locks itself into place. And then same thing here, locks itself into place. Make sure it's not caught up on the cord there. And you can see it's got some size to it. Let's measure this for length in case you have a smaller vehicle. The total length of it folded up is 50 inches. The total width of it at its widest is around 18 inches. So you would need a trunk space that can accommodate that 50-inch length. Weight-wise, I do like the distribution of weight when it's folded like this versus this one. It seems a little less awkward to lift. I can simply lift it, place it into whatever vehicle I may be using. So just like that. I'll unfold it so you can see how that works. Again, you have to straighten the legs out. And this can be a little bit cumbersome, so definitely want to consider that if you're going to be doing it all by yourself. And then we push down the seat. And make sure that seat locks, okay? Then you're off to the races. So a little bit more involved than the rollator, but not too much. So there you have it. Side-by-side comparison between a standard rollator walker and this upright walker. I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, consider giving me a thumbs up. And as always, if you need more information on how to stay safe and independent in your home and community, consider subscribing to EquipMeOT. Thank you.